When we first started this whole AI initiative, one of the common things that came up often was that how do we keep it still people first? How can we use AI as a tool rather than a replacement?
Hello, and welcome to Leading HR Experiments. I'm Valerie Gobeil, Director of Talent Management at Berkeley. In this podcast, I sit down with people leaders who have actually tested bold ideas in their organizations, not just talked about them. Each episode dives into the experiments they ran, the impact they measured, and the lessons they learned. HR sometimes gets labeled as slow to adapt or light on data. We're here to challenge that. What follows isn't just theory. It includes clear steps you can put into practice, plus an honest look at what really works when HR tries something new. Take what's useful, adapt it, and make it your own. Today, I'm joined by Stephanie Suanico, Global People Program Manager at BrainPOP. In her role, she leads some of the most critical people initiatives, from performance and talent cycle to employee experience and engagement programs. With a unique perspective at the intersection of people, strategy, and technology, she brings a wealth of insights on building programs that truly impact both employee and the business. Stephanie, welcome.
Hi, Valerie.
Hi, we're happy to have you.
Happy to be here.
We've been observing that HR teams everywhere are trying to integrate the use of AI in the right way in their organization. It's going so fast that many actually lack an understanding of how prevalently and for what purposes it's being used, and also how to encourage employees to leverage it in the right ways. I'm understanding that that's something that you also faced at BrainPOP, and I'm curious to know how you approached that challenge.
Absolutely. AI is everywhere, and it feels like everyone's talking about it. And that was one of the big things that we were facing going into this year is how are we going to take on AI as an organization? And the first thing that we needed to do was to take a pulse of where are the employees right now in terms of their AI journey. And for us, it was really important to do the AI readiness survey to better understand, are people actually using AI within the organization? And if so, to what extent? Because yes, AI is moving fast, and I feel like we are still catching up.
And let's take a step back here. You talked about the AI readiness survey, and can you walk us through a little bit what that was? I imagine that you sent out a survey to your whole organization to specifically take a pulse, but can you give us a bit more details on that?
Absolutely. So as an organization, we wanted to get insight in terms of our employees' AI journey. And within the AI task force, with the support of our executive sponsorships, we were able to create an AI readiness survey that would determine, first, are the employees using AI and to what extent? And the other aspect of it is what is preventing them from using AI if they aren't using it. And the other thing is, how else can we encourage them to use AI? And when we launched that survey in June, we had about 75% of participation, and the results were very interesting in terms of insight of AI usage within the organization.
Can you share a bit more about that, or what came out, or anything surprising?
Yeah, I think the surprising fact is we think that we may be behind just because we haven't talked about it as a company, but about 80% of our employees are already using AI to some extent. Some of them are using it pretty much daily, and the other ones are still in the early stages of experimentation. And that's one of the things of our survey that was able to show us.
It's very interesting. Can you share a little bit more about what were people mostly using it for? You just shared how often they were using it, but were there some clear categories or some clear elements that came out in terms of what type of usage they were doing?
Yeah, so the first prominent one in terms of usage was kind of like a thought partner. With ChatGPT and Gemini, a lot of the employees were using it as, how can I make a certain email work better, or I need some ideas to jump off on. The other thing too is productivity. A lot of the experimentation and exploration was to identify what are some of the processes within their day-to-day that can be supported by AI. And so a lot of the experimentation was seeking out those different AI tools or AI capabilities within our current systems that they can leverage further.
Okay, thanks. And so once you had that data around, usage and where are pockets where it's being used more or less, and what is it really being used for? What steps did you take, or what was the reflection on the people team, and what was the next step?
Yeah. So there were three things that really came out from the survey. First was that employees were seeking out information of how else are other people using AI, what are some tips and tricks, and what are some things that they may not have known. The other thing too was best practices and some policies and guidelines. I mean, they can experiment and explore, but within certain parameters, and they wanted to learn a bit more of that and be more transparent in terms of our policies and guidelines there. And the other thing is an opportunity to share with one another, not necessarily just within their teams, but also cross-functionally, because now we know people are using AI, but it's kind of in a vacuum. And
Mm-hmm.
so what we saw from the survey was everyone's curious of how else is everyone else doing? As a result of that, we've been able to launch a lot of our AI compliance trainings. And most importantly, what we're excited about is our AI department forum, which is composed of different members of different teams across the organization, carefully selected because we wanted everyone to be part of it and represented, but also really excited about AI. And so with our AI department forum, we have now a space where everyone can share cross-functionally of how they are using AI and share those ideas.
Okay, let me understand that. So, what I'm hearing is that what came out is that employees were using it, but we're also craving for more guidance around, like, are we using it in the right way? Would there be other ways to use it that could enhance my work? And so they wanted to hear more about that, and that's when you launched what you call the AI forum. Can you remind me a little bit what you call it?
Yeah, so we have the AI department forum.
AI department forum. Yes. Okay. So that is something that you've put together with AI champions from each department.
Yes.
And what's the format, and how does it unfold?
So it is a group of about 15 people, and each member has been nominated by their leaders
Uh-huh.
because they have shown interest in AI or are the current AI champions within their team. And on a monthly basis, we are meeting with one another, and we actually just had one this morning. And it's an opportunity for us to share what are the highlights, the challenges, and the wins within their own teams, and also for us to identify some parallels and similarities.
So it's a way to showcase what good experimentations or uses are being done with AI, and how could they maybe be replicated in other areas of the business. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yeah, great. And so I'm hearing it's fairly early if you launched the survey in June and you started meeting monthly, but are there already some elements that you're able to observe in terms of what impact is that having, that sort of like knowledge or practice sharing? Or are there elements that you're intending to measure as these monthly meetings are being held?
Yeah. So from an impact standpoint, it is still fairly early. We
Yeah.
do hope to be able to do another survey towards the end of the year or the beginning of the year. So that'll give us enough time to really implement some of our conversations and sharing out and having our AI for our members share it more with their teams. But from an immediate standpoint, the conversation of
Mm.
AI. Before, not everyone was really talking about AI. A lot of the times when you hear someone talk about AI, it's kind of like, wow, you're using AI. But now it's becoming a norm. And I think that is one of the immediate impact that we're seeing, how as an organization, we're talking about how can we use AI to maybe do our goal check-ins this quarter. And it's been really interesting to see.
Can you dig a bit deeper into that goal check-ins that you just mentioned?
Yeah, absolutely. So on a quarterly basis, we do our goal check-ins, and everyone knows it's not necessarily the most fun thing to do.
So that means each individual sort of checks in as to where they are with their goals for the quarter.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the year, you set your goals, and then on a quarterly basis, you check in and see how you are doing. And then you meet with your manager and see if it is in alignment to the goals that you've set in the beginning of the year, or there needs to be a recalibration. Um, it's something that everyone is not necessarily excited about, but most recently,
Because it feels heavy. Is that why there's a little bit of that reticence, or?
yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
kind of just, oh, here's a task for me to do, and to like I don't know if I'm in the right direction, or, uh, am I even thinking about the right goals? And so you could do all these goals, but how can you really further narrow it down, right? Like, I think that's some of the challenges some people also see. Like, I would love to do 10 things, but then you're like, okay, wait, maybe I should only do 3 things. So how do I further narrow it down and prioritize it? And so there's a lot of like mind challenges when it comes to goal setting and goal check-ins, and
Mhm.
a lot of employees, I think, are just a bit more apprehensive when it comes to that time of the quarter.
Okay, and I cut you, but you want to go back again to what you were saying around how were you sharing how that ritual of goal check-in is going to be influenced by the AI department forum?
Yeah, so one of the things that we were talking about in the AI department forum are just tools, and what AI tools is possible. And what's interesting that came out of that, and someone within our engineering team actually showed us, was different prompts that we can use within Slack to kind of have that conversation board with AI of, here are the things that I want to accomplish. Can you help me set KPIs? Can you help me further narrow it down, or set this goal a bit more clearer than I originally had planned? So
Mhm.
it was really fun. It's something that we're testing out for this quarter, and so we'll see how that turns out.
Great. And what are you hoping to see in terms of response or impact? I'm wondering, like, are you planning to measure, are people doing it more, quicker, or are people appreciating that ritual a bit more? Or are you going to track that?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is making goals a bit more exciting than just,
Yeah.
let me go in and check my goals and check the list and so forth and have a conversation with my manager. So I think one thing that is exciting about AI, it's shiny, right? And bright and exciting. And so everyone always wants to try out a new toy. So hopefully by incorporating that into our goal check-ins, that would be something that employees can look forward to. But at the same time, it's something that can help them, where it's not a tedious task for them to do on a quarterly basis, but
Yep.
more of, okay, I have a resource that can actually help me do this faster and actually make an impact in terms of how I'm setting my goals for the next quarter.
Any other successful example of cross pollination, something that would have come from something shared in the AI department forum that can then be reused in another part of the business, or can influence another part of the business?
So nothing concrete just yet. I think one of the goals that we have right now for the forum is setting their team goals and how they're going to be tracking those goals. What will be interesting out of that is how some of the goals can actually create a bit of dependency, or maybe even support one another of achieving those goals. And that is a way where we can like support that cross-functional work and collaboration within the organization, because that's something that we always want to make sure that we do. And so right now we don't have anything that we've identified fully, just because we started, but hopefully once we see the goals and the metrics around it, it'll be interesting to see the similarities, and how, for example, someone in product can actually impact the KPI for our marketing team.
Or at least, a practice that's worked on the product side, how could it be reused, repurposed on a marketing aspect to help them reach their objectives better?
Exactly.
And what about anything that came out and that you've decided to implement on your people team in terms of, use how AI has changed the way you do one of your processes or programs? Anything you want to share around that would be great.
Yeah, I would say one of the best examples I can give is when we do our annual engagement survey. The annual engagement survey is what we send out to employees. It's an anonymous survey of about, I would say, 30 to 35 questions to
Yep.
get a bit more insight from the organization of everything from employee sentiment to strategy to, employee happiness in general. Um, as we all know, there is a ton of information that we can get from that survey on an annual basis. And on top of the scales, we also have open comments. And the amount of hours that is being spent on just reading those comments and trying to take out common themes, it just took way too long. I think
Yep.
before it'd probably be 2 weeks to even generate an initial draft of a report that we can share out to our executive team. With the support of AI, it has been a drastic change where we can actually
Mm.
turn around a report within 2 days.
Yeah.
2 weeks to 2 days.
I guess, and that even like makes the relevancy even higher because we all know when you take a pulse, you want it has to, it's time bound, and so if you have an analysis weeks later, you're even doubting, and your trust level towards your results lowers because you're not sure that it's even relevant. It depicts what's happening in the organization at that time.
100%. In 2
Mm.
weeks, anything can happen.
Yeah.
Even in a week, anything can
Yeah.
happen. And so that turnaround, you're absolutely right. It's super helpful in terms of just action planning and being able to say, okay, here are the common themes and here are maybe some potential actions for us to take. On top of that, with AI, I find is yes, it can help us synthesize information better, but it also reduces these subjectiveness of it all, where we're
Mhm,
not
mhm.
cherry picking only certain information, but it kind of gives us that like, hey, here are some common themes. But we still need to come in there with from the human element to identify, okay, here are some nuances though as to like why those are the common themes.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you're bringing up because I think as much as the excitement towards AI that I'm seeing and we're seeing, I feel like it also comes with some apprehension on one end, also around like, are we keeping that judgment that should remain with a human being in the end? We don't only want to have insights that are drawn by machines. We want to make sure that there's that human element that's kept. So how do you find that balance?
So when we first started this whole AI initiative, I think one of the common things that came up often was that how do we keep it still people first?
Hmm.
Not AI first, but people first. And how can we use AI as a tool rather than a replacement? Because at the end of the day, anything that AI gives us, we still need to fact check, right? It's interesting that sometimes when you are searching something on AI, you're like, wait, that's not right. And so I think for us, from a human element, the way that we approach it is how can we make sure that our employees are enabled to use AI correctly and with the right resources. So
Hmm.
providing them the right policies and guidelines. But also with the usage of our AI department forum, how are we sharing ideas and how can we make that space an open forum for everyone where we are hearing those wins, but also the challenges where it may not necessarily be, hey, AI is the solution, AI is
Hmm.
actually the problem.
For sure. I'm curious to dig into that one because we've talked about wins. Have you had some interesting challenges that have been shared internally around use of AI?
So, in terms of challenges within I think everyone has different challenges, some depending on their AI journey as an individual. That's where we are seeing a bit more of those common challenges. Some are so far ahead when it comes to using AI, it becomes more of a second nature, and others, there's a lot more like, oh, wait, maybe I can use AI or let me try out AI. So, I think that's where the challenges are right now is everyone has their own journey, and one thing that we definitely have identified is okay, let's start thinking of how to upskill our employees where we can get them all to the same level and comfort level of AI usage.
Hmm. If you think of your AI department forum initiative and just in general use of AI at BrainPOP, what's your objective? What would make you say yes, you know we're seeing the results that we want to see. We're at the place where we want to be.
So for us, we would definitely like to see productivity being impacted by
Yep.
AI. And not necessarily of, oh, we're producing more. That would be amazing. But kind of just taking away some of those day to days that maybe getting in the way of the productivity would be a great way for us to start. The other thing too, when it comes to AI, is the whole organization. Are we using the right AI tools as a whole? And are we putting in the right resources, especially when we're coming up to our budgeting plans for next year? It'd be really helpful to know, hey, we should really invest in this resource, or hey, maybe we shouldn't. And by way of this, we're having conversations and identifying better use cases for certain AI tools.
Okay, thanks. And if we go back to your people team, what are the next steps, or what are the next experiments that you're interested in leading? Maybe in terms of, well, AI tools, but also I'm interested in hearing you. What's the next frontier for using AI in analyzing your engagement data?
Yeah, so we actually have our upcoming engagement survey soon, and so it'll be interesting to see how AI can be utilized there. But in the future, what we've been thinking about within the people team in general are what are some of our day to day that can be supported by AI a bit more. We are a leaner team now, and so a lot of us are actually jumping into roles that may not necessarily be within our job description immediately, but we are jumping in, we're leaning in, just that's how awesome our team is. And so I think for us it's identifying, okay, is there any AI opportunities where maybe this AI, tool can help us out and reducing that responsibility from us as a whole. As a program manager within the team, I use Asana quite a bit within my group just because it's the best way for me to stay organized. And within that, there's already so many AI capabilities that I'd love to explore and hopefully help my team. Because I know it's not necessarily something that they're a fan of using.
Got it. What are some of the things that are holding people back? If we dig that a little bit further, what are some of the apprehensions or blockers or challenges for people?
I think one of the blockers or challenges of, I wouldn't say for most people, I think it's more of, hey, here's this really cool AI tool. I can test it out. There's this thing that it can do. And then what's next? It's oh, this tool can reduce time to do this. Great, let's use it. But how can we further embed it into
Hmm.
our day to day? How can we actually further adopt it, maybe as a wider team? And so I think that is one of the blockers and challenges is how do we take it a step further rather than just staying in the experimentation side. But what's interesting that really came up also in our conversations was that AI may not necessarily be the 100% solution to every challenge
Hmm.
or problem there is. It could probably only just be a piece of the whole issue.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of hope, but it's also can't replace. It's not magical either. It has its limits, and has to be complemented with human judgment. Definitely. Let's see. What if we wanted to spell it out a bit more for our listeners? If we're talking to HR leaders who know that they have to be a little bit more on top of things around use of AI inside the organization, and they want to get a pulse on AI usage and then promote experimentation and using it in the right way. What's the starting point you recommend? And then what are some few steps you recommend?
I would definitely recommend doing an AI readiness survey. And the questions within that are pretty straightforward is how comfortable are you using AI in the workplace? How often do you use it? And if you do use it, what for? And with the results of that survey, we've been able to get really good insight of first how many people are using AI and where is HR and legal and our engineering team and everyone else can get involved in further supporting that experimentation and exploration. Because we're all exploring and experimenting, and there is a certain percentage. I think with us, there was at least a 1% of the population that wasn't even trying with AI. But
Mhm.
at some point, everyone has some sort of exposure. So now I think getting a pulse of how far are people exploring and experimenting through that survey is a good start. And from there, we were able to identify at least 3 action points to start for this year, and hopefully next year continue on.
Okay, thanks. I think that's a great and super easy starting point, and it will then give insights into what's happening in the organization. That's one thing I think that's part of the stress is sort of being in the dark around like, where are people at, and how can we support them? And
Uh-huh.
then maybe one advice or one element you can share around how do you promote experimentation with AI, maybe in environments where people are a little bit more reticent.
Yeah. So for us, we really started to hear more about AI once we had a group of people talking about AI.
Mm.
So I think as a HR leader or an organization, start identifying those AI champions within your organizations and then encourage them and give them a space where they can share their own experimentation and exploration with AI and not necessarily, only focus on the wins, but maybe some of their challenges as well. Because one thing I have noticed when it comes to AI experimentation and exploration is people may not necessarily be willing to share their own challenges just because, you always hear all these amazing things. And so having a little bit of that positive and negative can then encourage all the rest of your employees to talk about it. The other thing we started within our organization is a Slack channel with like
Hmm.
hashtag AI wins. And so we are hoping that will promote even more of a conversation across the company to share what are they doing with AI.
That's great. There's something around like normalizing and recognizing even just the efforts that I think can totally promote experimentation there, and it opens a door for people who are like, well, who am I to maybe showcase what I'm doing? It might not be that extraordinary. I think that opens the door to everyone.
Absolutely. I think it's such an exciting topic, and everyone is so curious about it. But it's right there, right? That hesitation of who would want to hear what I'm doing with AI. And also, I think there's that little bit of a taboo left still of,
Hmm.
oh, I am using AI for my work. Does
Mm.
that mean I'm not doing my work? And it's
Am I
not.
making myself irrelevant?
Exactly.
Am I walking myself out of a job?
Exactly. Like, am I advertising to everyone that an AI is doing my job? And it
Right.
shouldn't be that way. It
Yeah.
is AI making you even more productive so then you can go ahead and create new things.
Yeah, you can really tap into that value add that you're bringing with all your brain and humanness and particularity and judgment.
Exactly. And I think it goes back to that whole like people first, right? We have AI as an additional tool, more of a thought partner rather than a replacement.
Thank you so much for joining us, Stephanie. I loved learning about how you really were able to get a better understanding of AI usage in the organization and how you're really promoting it. That's it for today's episode. Take what works, experiment boldly, and keep pushing HR forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.